Many thanks for staying with us on Frontline from the studios of New Frontiers Television. Today we are focusing on something every professional should care about: how to stay relevant in your career in a world that is fast changing. At the moment, you need to stay relevant, which is why we're talking about upskilling and reskilling, staying career relevant. And with me in the studio is someone who understands what it takes to grow a career and stay ahead. That is Mr. Felix Idowu. He is a researcher, a career strategist, and a multiple industry expert on learning and development. He is also a certified project expert and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Management and Leadership. You're welcome to the studios.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So let's begin honestly. Now, when we say upskilling and reskilling, what exactly are we talking about?
All right, thank you so much. When we say upskilling and reskilling, first of all, we need to know what skills actually entail. And of course, in every system, everybody is committed to enhancing the quality of service delivery. Everybody is committed to the level of productivity and then how things get done. And that is what has actually made the world a better place and the society getting better by the day. So skills are more or less like the relevant ingredients, tools, competencies, and then techniques, quote and unquote, that are relevant in generating some desirable outcome or getting some levels of productivity visible. So when we now talk about upskilling, now we are referring to the skills at different levels, scaling up or scaling a bit higher, and then delivering at a level beyond what was at the initial stage. So upskilling and reskilling, they are forms of enhancing or equipping employees, individuals, organizations, to be able to deliver at a level more than what they used to. So, but these are two different words. Upskilling is a process. Of course, we can say also is an action plan, of course, that an individual can actually set for himself. But in this context, it helps an individual to expand their skills or their skill sets within their current roles, so that they will be able to perform better than what they used to do. So upskilling function more within the linear pathway in the current role of an individual, so that the level of productivity of that person can be more than what it used to be. But reskilling, on the other hand, even though it's a form of enhancing skill set also, but this function more on a lateral pathway. Okay. So lateral pathway in the sense that a person's skills may not necessarily have to do with where he currently operates or the role he currently operates in. So in reskilling, there may possibly be the need for a shift. The person wants to examine a new role, a new discipline, a new pathway, even within the same business strategy, within the same organization. So reskilling and upskilling, they are tools in the 21st century that makes an organization to be more effective than others, especially when we are talking about the competitive nature of the 21st century marketplace.
Now, everyone keeps talking about how you need to upgrade your skills, or you need to get more skills. Why is it that it seems to matter more now than before?
Yes, thank you very much. On or before the COVID, there were ways by which traditional systems actually were operating. And of course, yes, even though we talked about we are already in the technological age, we are already in the information era, and then before Stephen Covey actually passed on, the author of 7th Habit of Highly Effective People and the 8th Habit, he said we are not even just at the level of technology and information now, we are in the era of wisdom. And then we know that wisdom justifies, result justifies wisdom. All right. Now, at each of those phases, organizations keep competing, and then there are a lot of innovation and creativity happening. But the COVID, which started around 2019 and 2020, redefined the way jobs and works are done in the global space. While many other organizations in the developing communities actually folded their hands in the name of there is lockdown, everybody get back, to keep waiting under the lockdown, thinking when there will be a full-blown opportunity to get back to work, they will continue from where they stopped. Unfortunately, the developed community and other emerging economies actually saw that as an opportunity and to redefine the world of works. And that was where issue of remote working comes in, and that was where there were need to trigger the way by which people do work. So now it matters most because after the COVID, business has changed from what it used to be. As a matter of fact, the skills after COVID actually became the new currency with which we exchange, what we have for real value and wealth. So organizations that are actually scaling up now, organizations that are actually really dominating, quote unquote, beating the competitive edge, are those that have actually prioritized reskilling and upskilling of their employees. And then they realize that the global community no longer operates at the regional level now. We are competing. An organization here in Ibadan will be competing with an organization in United States of America on the platform of leverage of technology, which will necessarily demand the need for them to equip themselves with the skills that is needed to deliver value like every other organizations that are doing the same across the globe.
Now, let's look at Nigeria. Now, how are changes such as you've mentioned remote work, how are changes such as remote work, AI, automation, affecting the kind of skills employers are looking for in Nigeria?
All right. Thank you. First of all, when we take a look at maybe Nairametrics and then maybe our NBS and then some of the reliable platform that we have for our data, we found that more than 86% of the workforce actually needs to be reskilled or upskilled for them to be relevant. We're talking about Nigeria, and that talks about a whooping amount of more than 88 million people. 88 million people. We are not still talking about the concept of unemployment or underemployment, but people that are actually in active workforce, but that are not actually competent enough to deliver at the rate and the pace with which the demand for value in the marketplace is beckoning. All right. So in Nigeria, there are still some other challenges also that necessitate the need for organizations to look into upskilling and reskilling more intentionally. If other countries actually are moving at a pace, we need to double up for some good reasons. Number one, Nigeria currently has the largest number of youth population in the world. That's number one. Number two, we note that in terms of the graduates being deployed into the marketplace, over 600,000 of such are actually deployed into the marketplace on annual basis. And then we made to understand that less than 30% of these 600,000 graduates actually have what it takes to actually get the required jobs that are available in the market. So which means we have more than, on the annual basis, we have more than 70% of the people that actually either become unemployed or underemployed. Many of them engage into some other undercover activities, if you may actually call it that way. Now, the challenge now is, what is the reality for the employers? Employers are looking for exceptional candidates, and candidates that actually didn't just bag regular degrees, didn't just actually have what we call the traditional certificates to compete now, but candidates that actually have gone the extra mile to equip themselves with the required skills, the competencies, and the attitude to thrive in the 21st century global economy. And that is the reason why for Nigeria, the organizations actually are doing what we call organizational skills mappings and skills gap that needs to be filled. They do workforce and the market skills mapping too. With all of these put together, Nigeria on the verge of having a youth bulge that if there is no adequate structure to ensure that the right skills actually match up with the demand in the marketplace, many of these young people may actually become a major disadvantage rather than an economic advantage. So we actually need it because technologically we are rising. Thank God for that, but we are not meeting up to the global average. Number two, in terms of population, and as far as poverty also is concerned, you know, the poverty, the multidimensional poverty index still shows that we need to move beyond the level we are moving. And how will all this happen? It is by increasing the level of output in terms of productivity in the marketplace. And this can only happen with appropriate skill sets, either from those that are currently employed, that needs to scale up and expand their capacity to deliver so that they can improve the level of productivity, and those that are actually looking for opportunity to gain access into the marketplace, they need to get the key skills, 21st century skill sets. We're talking about digital literacy skills, we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. It goes beyond ChatGPT. It talks about automation and things that would have taken, let's say, 1 hour to do. How can you accomplish that in 10 minutes? We have what we call quality management. We have what we call process improvement. How do we reduce wastages of time? And this can only be done with effective skills being deployed. Are we getting it? Now, for example, let's look at traditional roles that graphic content creators and the graphic designers are used to. Now, with the adoption of some tools, and don't forget, we said skills is about upskilling, is about expanding your skill set in your current role so that you can deliver better than you used to, and invariably leading to non-negligible effect in the productive capacity of the organization. Now, many of such tools, many of them are using now, actually will deliver the same results in more than half, and in less than half of the time it would have cost. So all these things actually necessitate the need for appropriate skilling.
Now, you mentioned that the Nigerian professional seems to be lagging behind when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. Now, what are major barriers that are making this happen?
Yes, major barriers. We are not denying the fact that the reality before us tells us that things are not as it used to be. Business is not the way we used to have that many years ago. But people, when it comes to circumstances or situations like this, we have two categories of people that emerge: those that live in despair and those that deny, or those that live in denial. Denial and living in despair are the two major challenges we are faced with. In denial, people feel, organizations actually feel, well, all these changes you're talking about actually have not actually come to stay. The truth is, we have ways things used to be done, and then innovation and technological disruption may not actually change it. That's living in denial. And that is very, very evidenced in the way our educational system, especially in our traditional institution, still keep running. Many of them have not been able to adopt and key into the revolutionary drive that technology in education is actually bringing to fore. And then the second categories of the people are the despair. People that are so overwhelmed. They're talking about AI, coding, programming. Everybody wants to go into it. And they have not done what we call individual skill assessment. Many don't even know the kind of technology or innovation that their industry and their own business in terms of corporate strategy is actually adapting and working with. So the barriers we are faced with actually focus more on the lack of relevant adaptability, and that's why in the 21st century working professionals needs to be agile, not just being hardworking. They must be agile and they must be resilient as a leader. And someone said nothing conclusively proves a man's ability to lead others than what he does day to day to lead himself. So agile professionalism requires that in the midst of many things happening, you are thinking on your feet as you are here. You are assuming what is happening in the marketplace and what are the functional relationship between what you do and then what your organization can actually project in the marketplace in relation to the competition, you know, and not just within your regional space, but in the global community. So all of this, actually, if we don't have a proper roadmap to upskilling and reskilling, then all these things actually becomes a major barrier. When we don't adapt, lack of adaptability. Number two, living in despair and denial, not assuming, not accepting the responsibility of changing the narratives by ourselves, thinking that when changes will happen, what will be, like in the German quotation. Are we getting it? So these are some of the barriers. And the third barrier is individuals not taking personal responsibility for their own growth and development. When people live by blame game, and when you assume that people that are actually doing better actually have, you know, we have what we call damaging misconceptions. When you believe people that are actually landing better jobs, they are doing gig works, many of them are heavily connected, and then for the ladies, a number of them are sleeping around to get those strategic roles. You know, you are not asking questions. You are not doing proper self-assessment. What exactly is the market demanding? We're talking about skills mismatch. Despite the fact that we are talking about there are so many unemployed in the marketplace, but there are still many jobs every day, vacancies that are rolled out. What happened? They discovered that many of the graduates looking for a job, or many of the people that are already in the industry but they are laid off because of lack of adequate productivity, many of them actually cannot transit into the new roles. Some of the new roles require you using some tools that many of them didn't learn in school. So when people don't take personal responsibility for their professional growth and their personal development, then that serves as a barrier also to some of these things. And the last but not the least is when there are no appropriate governance framework, you know, at the possibly maybe at the institutional level. And that is why in one of the SDG goals, they talked about strong institutions. Our institutional frameworks are weak. We talked about a lot of digitization, SME empowerment, all of this. Many of them are done around the core when the core is actually not attended to. So we pump out money, but we don't have functional framework about how we will measure each of the processes and examine and evaluating the impact of what we are doing, so that we can go back to the drawing board and redefine. You know, so these are the cumulative effect of the barriers that we are faced with when it comes to skilling in the marketplace.
You mentioned how some graduates are not familiar with tools because they were not taught in the classroom. Now, how can young Nigerian graduates bridge the gap of classroom learning and the real-world workplace demands?
Okay, it is simple. Gone are the days when people necessarily have to leave school and just go directly to the marketplace in the name of they want to have a feel. But now with technology, with all these the synergy that is happening between the marketplace and higher institutions, all these actually provide opportunities. Internship is always another big opportunity that many of the young graduates or undergraduate, before they actually transit into the marketplace, you know, can begin to have an idea of what it is. That is why it is important in the 21st century to be thoroughly informed, because there's what we call marketplace awareness. Awareness, global awareness. You don't necessarily have to go to United States of America from Nigeria for you to know what is operational there. You don't necessarily have to wait till you graduate before you know what the demand in the marketplace. Now, what must be marketplace where fluent? That's what we call fluency. Marketplace fluency. So, what are graduates? What could they do? Number one, they must ask a lot of questions. They must ask a lot of questions. And then we have a lot of platforms that are readily available to enhance this particular aspect of people's career life. For example, you're on LinkedIn, you are on Twitter, you are on Instagram. All of these are what the knowledge and the networking economy makes available. When you connect with, for example, if I connect with Miss Adeola now on New Frontier Television, I don't necessarily have to come into the media industry before I get to know the trending things. When I have someone like that, are you getting it? Many of them don't ask questions. And when people don't ask questions, number one, you can't assess the level of their knowledge, what they don't know and what they need to know. And like what someone said, that the literate in the 21st century are not those that can just read and write, but people that can learn, unlearn and relearn. So number one, we must get to know that in the marketplace, the rate at which the marketplace is growing in terms of skills demand is not the same way the institutions, especially in this part of the world, are growing to equip, because it is not easy to redefine curriculum. And that's it. We may be blaming the institutions, but it takes a lot of processes and layers of structures before curriculum of 4 years studies or 3 year studies or 2 year studies, either at national diploma level or higher diploma or bachelor's degree, before they can be reviewed. It takes a lot. And number two, the critical personnel that will be responsible for those curriculum revamp. They are people that must actually have good knowledge of what is happening in the marketplace, but many of them are still in the academia. So it will take synergy that may last for about 5-10 years before we can actually begin to see desirable results. But what can young people do? Young people actually need to take advantage of many platforms that we have. We have online learning platforms. You have to do a kind of self-assessment and metrics analysis in terms of quantity, in terms of quality. You start some programs. You know what course you're studying. What is the benchmark you are placing? What are they requiring in the marketplace? Do I have that? You do skill assessment. Do I have that? Okay, I don't have this. For example, let me take project management as a case study. Some are studying project management in the university, but many people actually didn't have background in project management at all in the university, but the roles they are occupying has to do with project. Some of them are actually handling series of projects in their various institutions or enterprise. Now, the point is, how do you upskill even as a project manager? It goes beyond we start a project and we complete it. Now, there is the aspect of cost estimation. There are tools also that are needed. For example, the use of Trello, the use of Asana, the use of Microsoft Project. I can say categorically, more than 90% of most people that are handling projects in Nigeria don't have cutting edge skills in all of this. And it's the reason for most of our project failure. But what do we do? For example, in my own organization, and one of the things I've taken more intentionally as an L&D expert is that I go into the institutions. We facilitate partnership. Now, for undergraduates, we begin to introduce them to some of these skills, and then we engage them with some micro learning platforms where a number of them can learn and get exposed. It does not disturb their curriculum. It does not disturb. As a matter of fact, it reinforces what they are learning. So young people actually needs to do a lot beyond just sitting and completing their syllabus. They must know what they need in the marketplace and begin to bring them into their learning process and complete that within the space of time.
Now, for those who are already in the workforce, how then do you know when it's time to reskill or upskill, and what kind of skills you need to develop?
All right, thank you. For those that are already in the workforce, it is more challenging for them, because to succeed is not, yes, it may be challenging, but to succeed is not as challenging as to sustain success. Are we getting it? To sustain success is actually the biggest issue, and that has a lot to do with that agility and then resilience leadership that individuals need to embrace. All right, now you have gotten into that capacity. Every day things are changing, and the level of competitions and the bar is being raised without our permission. So for the person in the working environment, it is not just about how much I earn. It's in terms of the delivery, in terms of deliverables, in terms of, okay, what are the industry relevant trends that actually we must key in. And there are 3 levels of strategic diagnosis that needs to be done in order to identify skills gap for workforce. Number one, there is the workforce or market analysis which organization do, and then through the help of their L&D expert or by collaborating with an L&D expert or organization to examine what actually is happening in the marketplace. What are the skills? And then they come back into their establishment and do organizational skills assessment. Okay, on the scale of 10 in these specific areas, what do we, from what we've discovered in the marketplace, what is it that we have, what are we lagging behind in? All right, and the third one is now to do individual skill assessment of the staff or the workforce. So for individuals that is already in a particular work must actually have the ears on trending matters in the marketplace. For example, organizations have needs, and in order to increase their market value, there may be need to keep changing the way they are doing things. So when there is need for organization to change, now that necessitates at times the need for them to carry out a general upskilling for their workforce, because organizations that consistently commit to equipping the skill and enhancing the skills, that's why they have refreshers course. Some of them may be sent out to go and study, and some may be required because there are demand. For example, there was an organization that had a partnership with World Bank project, and then there is the personnel that were responsible for drafting some of these project implementation plan actually realized that part of the requirement of the World Bank was that their financing instrument from what it used to be has changed to program for result, P4R. All right, now program for result was quite different from what they were used to. All right, now the personnel that was responsible for that actually needed to get trained, because they have what we call the disbursement linked indicators and all of those things. These and verification protocols, all of these actually are novel. Like the way COVID brought a novel virus, it came with novel skills. All right, this novelty actually requires that the organization in question, if they must consistently be part of the vendors for the World Bank Group, they must continue to scale up. So they have to train their staff on this new model. That is an example of upskilling. But there may be a new set of product line that an organization is looking into. They realize that with the demographics, that there are demands, which is quite different from what they are used to doing. Now, they may want to train some of their loyal staff, long-standing staff, to man that new areas. That is reskilling. That is a shift. It is not necessarily part of what they were used to doing, but a new skill set. Many people transit now. You have always been maybe a teacher, you have always been working in the bank, many of them are doing fine, but suddenly they realize that tech, IT is the new gold, and then many of them are transiting. They are learning cybersecurity from working as a relationship manager to moving into cybersecurity or data science or data analytics. All of these are reskilling. But from a communication expert, you want to delve more into, let's say, content creation from within your field, or you want to engage in you want to scale up as a public speaking expert, that can require a measure of upskilling. You are in project management, you want to expand your ability to translate the project initiation to planning phase, and then to ensuring that at executive phase they are able to do proper monitoring with performance indicators. Whatever you learn in those areas can still be regarded as upskilling. Are we getting it? So all of these areas by which individuals and organizations can actually upskill in the 21st century.
Okay, there's a major challenge that it seems to be happening in career building, and that's the fear of change for a lot of professionals, and then the lack of continuous learning mindset. I mean, you speak to some older persons in the workforce, and they say, "Oh, at least I'm done. At this point, I'm done learning." So maybe the younger generations should continue learning. Now, how can professionals overfear this come and adopt a sense of continuous learning?
Okay, if one wants to remain relevant, one must understand that change is the only constant in the world. That is just the truth. At a point, we were in school. We never remain in school forever. So at a point, as entry-level professional in the marketplace, we were at a level and at a phase. We didn't remain at that level forever, because if you don't change in the changing world, you will be victims of change. Are we getting it? Because many of the external factors responsible for the changes that are imminent, many of them don't require our permission.
Yeah.
So when we don't adapt to the changes that are very obvious right before us, what happens is that there won't be challenges at all in terms of people enforcing what you need to do on you. The only thing is that the world will move and set you aside. All right. So the fear of change is always there, and that's even with those that actually advocate for change. You must keep building yourself, building capacity. But the truth of the matter is that the sense of leadership that we develop, knowing fully well that if I am a responsible worker, I should leave a place better than I met it, because that is actually the basis for organizational relevance. All right. And to do that, one needs to embrace change with courage. Some of the changes will require a lot of resources, because organizations can only try, but organizations cannot outrightly do a process overall in terms of the quality of skill set that is needed to compete favorably. And whatever skills you equip yourselves with, they remain with you. They become your own collateral for exchange of value in the competing world. So one of the ways by which professionals could avert the fear of changes is by having a clear-cut sense of direction and plan. Because action without adequate preparation is the cause of every failure. Now, even for those of us that are in L&D, we discovered that one of the indicators we use to measure people's commitments to change is completion rate of program. Many people can start program, but many may not actually complete that. At times, there are some courses we have about 90% completion rate. Some we have about 80% completion rate. Some we have even 50, which means people, about less than 50% of those that actually participate in the program eventually complete it. And then it is not just about even the completion rate. Part of the assessment and metrics that are used to define the performance level is what is the level of delivery that is consistent with the time the person actually experienced that kind of training or reskilling. All right. Now, another thing that will help, apart from setting a clear-cut plan, is that we must envisage what you are most likely going to become. At work, we are becoming. What am I going to become if I undertake this? So if somebody is envisaging, taking a look at the career is such a broad spectrum that actually continue to facilitate relevance at each of the levels as you are moving across the ladder. That will motivate you, because when people don't see what is in there for them in another 5 years, if a person completes, let's say for example now, the hard skills, technical hard skills, somebody has bagged a master's degree and he knows that if he must work with multilateral institutions, have access to fellowship programs and grants, and then be able to engage in a lot of community development, so that he will eventually, be able to bring to life all of his life's aspirations. He will need to proceed for a doctorate degree. Now, whatever will cost him to achieve that will be, what he will invest into. And then what will be the motivation? The motivation is, it is just for 3 years. It's just for 4 years. It's just for 5 years. After 4 or 5 years, there is a goal. So many people don't have clear-cut career goals set. And that is why when some people get to a particular position, and then they just feel, well, as far as we are concerned, we leave every other thing to the Gen Z or the people coming behind us. And the way the brain, by the nature of neuroplasticity, the way the brain is wired, the longer you live, the better the brain works. That's just another amazing thing. But there is an illusion and damaging misconception that the older you are getting, the weaker the brain. No, that is not. And that's why many people actually don't use up to 0.1% of the capacity of their brain. So the more you commit to continuous learning, it makes it more elastic. Until that continuous learning is not attached to just a goal, it becomes a lifestyle. So you don't read just because you want to make a presentation. You don't read just because you want to, you have a function to deliver at, but you are reading because it has become your necessary food for life. Because you are excited. So I've talked about three things now. You are set, there is a need for a plan. There, number two, there is need to see that there is a goal that you are focusing on, because by the time you are skilled and then you are better equipped, there is a level of productivity. For every level of productivity, there are remuneration and compensation that goes with it, and then you are seeing that. And the third thing is that you are becoming somebody that takes delight in learning. Because people that consistently learn, they are ever relevant in ministry, in life, in their personal life, even in the community. But people that don't learn, they become archaic, they become obsolete, and then unfortunately they cannot actually influence lives.
Thank you so much, Mr. Felix Ido, for those powerful insights. You've proven that it is important to stay relevant in this world, and especially when you're waiting for opportunities, you have to be prepared for that opportunity. And just like you have mentioned, learning never stops. If you want to grow, you have to learn, learn, unlearn, and relearn. That is what keeps you valuable. To have viewers, you will understand that the future of work is here, and you have to keep upscaling and reskilling yourself to position yourself for better opportunities. Thank you so much again for coming on Frontline. So, well, that's where we'll wrap up the conversation for this morning. Do join us again tomorrow as we bring to you another episode of Frontline. My name is Adiola Adegoke. Good day.